Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Redeeming the Time. I'm your host, Chris Macy, and I'm so glad you could be here with us today. Well, I did a lesson Sunday night on gossip, and then I made a radio recording of it, and I should have set up the camera and videoed it, and because some others have been asking for that, so I'm going to do it again and record a video. Although on the radio program I'm more limited on time there, and there's other things I have to get in on the program. So I might actually just go through the whole thing rather than doing a 10 or 15 minute lesson. I think I'm just going to try to work through the whole thing and take my time. And like I did with the other ones, I want to start off with this little saying. It's not necessarily a poem. It's kind of a riddle, but not necessarily. But we'll start with it anyway. The title is, Who Am I? I have no respect for justice. I maim without killing. I break hearts and ruin lives. I am cruel and malicious and gather strength with age. The more I'm quoted, the more I'm believed. I flourish at every level of society. My victims are helpless. They cannot protect themselves against me because I have no name and no face. To track me down is impossible. The harder you try, the more elusive I become. I'm nobody's friend. Once I tarnish a reputation, it is never the same. I topple governments and ruin marriages. I destroy careers and cause heartache, sleepless nights. I wreck churches and separate Christians. I spawn suspicion and generate grief. I make innocent people cry. Even my name hisses. I am gossip. 1,500 years ago, Pope Gregory classified the sins looking through the Bible. He wanted to make a classification. Here's all the sins, and all sins can be classified under these 7 sins, and we call them today the 7 deadly sins. And those categories in his list are pride, anger, indifference, envy, greed, lust, and gluttony. And when I think about gossip and I try to classify that under one of these categories, I just can't do it. I mean, yeah, in some cases, sure, this or that, but it bounces around depending on whatever it is they're gossiping or how they're gossiping or their motives, and there's different things. I would put gossip as its own deadly sin. And don't we, when we think of the word gossip, the first thing that pops into your mind, is it that idea that it's some little old lady somewhere and she's just, who knows what, talking about the juicy gossip of the town. Here's who and so is dating this person, and I saw this person going into that person's house, and I saw George going into the liquor store, and things like that. It almost seems a little innocent, little old ladies being idle and busybodies. But that is not what gossip is. Well, I apologize. That is gossip, but it is far worse than that. And I hope our lesson today will help us see just how destructive gossip is. In the book of Proverbs, it warns us of the deadly allurement of gossip as well as its deadly effects. In Proverbs 18, verse 8, the writer says or writes, "The words of a whisperer are like dainty morsels, and they go down into the innermost parts of the body." Dainty morsels. Man, we have a fascination with gossip, don't we? Man, we do. Even you may be sitting there or watching or listening to this, and you may be thinking, no, Chris, not me. I don't. I abhor that. But when we hear about something like, hey, Joe over there in the other side of town, man, you would not believe what I saw him do yesterday. And our first reaction is, really? What? Man, what'd he do? Let me tell you about it. It's not always gossip, but sometimes it is. I've had some folks come up to me and say, Chris, I want to tell you about something. I don't know if I should tell you, and then I stop them. You don't know if you should. That means maybe you shouldn't. Or maybe someone asked you not to. Or maybe it's gossip. Hold back on that. And we'll get into that more often later. When you go to the supermarket, You know, you get in a line to go pay for your groceries. You're surrounded by these magazines. We call them tabloids. And what are they doing? What's their big catch? Gossip. Oh, we got the latest gossip on people in Hollywood. You know, it's not, well, Hollywood people do make their own choices, but look at the life they're in. Everything they do is in the public image. Everything's gossip. And how many lives have been destroyed and how many people have committed suicide because of gossip? I'm thinking about something that's been going on in the news lately. This is February the 1st, 2019, in case you're looking at this video a long time from now, but there is an incident that has occurred several weeks ago with these poor high school kids in Kentucky. They're from Kentucky at a Covington High School. They were over in D.C. at the Lincoln Memorial, and they got caught up in something that they had nothing to do with. And because somebody had their phone, you know, and they're recording everything. You see that, right? You've seen it. Where you see people standing around a fight or something, they get their phones out like this. They're not texting or looking at their email, they're videotaping that. They're recording that. And that's what was going on there. But the first recording that hit the airways and on the internet was a small snippet of what was going on. People on the left, people on the right were all going after these kids and condemning these poor kids when we didn't have all the facts. All we saw was what was happening in the middle, and it looked bad, but no one knew how it started. No one knew how it ended. We just had hearsay. That was it. No facts. There was no real journalism going on there. And then when a video came out showing everything that was going on, the tables were turned. Exact opposite. In fact, completely off the charts opposite of what was really going on. And when people were sitting there taking that video and they uploaded that, and other people who shared that video, you know what that was? Gossip. Gossip. Gotta be careful. Gossip. The words of a whisperer are like dainty morsels, going down into the innermost being. A dainty morsel is something that tastes good. We have a fascination with it. For me, it would be the deviled egg, freshly made. Oh, it tastes so good. Maybe for you, it's a hot fudge sundae, right? Made from Bluebell ice cream. Yummy. We are like that. Not only does Proverbs warn us that we have a perverse attraction with gossip, it also warns us of the corrupting effects of gossip. When we listen to it and goes into our innermost parts, it sinks its teeth into us, into our hearts, and we know what gossip is when we hear it or when we speak it, but we don't often take time to define the word. And when we open up God's word, we see it being used like in Romans chapter 1, verse 29. We see it there as the word gossip there is whisperer. Literally, it's a whisperer. A person who whispers behind your back, most of the time with the intention of hurting you. But it doesn't always have to be the intention. It is gossip when you're talking about somebody behind their back. With email, we can gossip. With text messages. With video clips. That's gossip, folks. Chris, we're just taking videos out. I'm just sharing it on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever. It's gossip. If you don't know the whole story, and that's just showing one little snippet, and you don't know what's going on the left or on the right or who all was there or anything, be careful. Be careful not to be sharing gossip. It is like a tasty morsel. We like to hear it, right? The question is, where does it originate? Well, a number of scripture passages. The Lord informs us the origins of it so that we can avoid it. And one of Satan's, this is one of his favorite things to do is shoot these fiery arrows, right? But he wants to use gossip, I think, the most. Isn't it great if you go to a war with another country, if you can get that country to blow itself up? And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend any resources or anything. You just have to sit back with your popcorn and eat it and watch the whole destruction happen. That's what gossip is. And that's what Satan wants to do. That's why he looks for some weak folks. He tries to put that arrow of gossip into them and then just let it run free as he sits back and watches. He says to you and me or anybody who might be spreading that gossip, Christians, and say, thank you for doing that for me. I want to say, Satan says, I want to say to you, I appreciate you and you taking up my banner. in the fight against Christ. James tells us in James 3:6 that the tongue is a fire, the very world of iniquity. The tongue is set among our members as that which defies the entire body and sets on fire the course of our life and is set on fire by hell. The flames of hell ignite gossip. That is so true. Satan's behind it. And we got to be careful with those things. In Luke 6:45, Jesus tells us, the good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth what is evil. For his mouth speaks from that which fills his heart. Jesus tells us that our words reveal what is on the inside, what's in our heart. Gossip comes from a heart that's filled with evil. David says of his enemies in Psalm 109 verse 3, with words of hatred they surround me, they attack me without cause. He's not talking about, I don't think he's worried about King David, about his enemies going around saying bad things about David. Oh, we don't like David. He's a bad guy. He looks like a frog, whatever. It's not that, I don't think. This is my opinion, is that he's talking about that his enemies are spreading gossip about him, spreading lies about him amongst probably his own people and his allies. And that becomes a problem. Now he's got to deal with that, and always having to deal with that. And it's not something anybody wants to have to do. Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31, that one way that we vent our anger and our bitterness and rage is through gossip. We wound people behind their backs by bad-mouthing them. We retaliate by shooting people in the back with verbal abuse. And unless we find comfort for our hurt and resolution for our anger, we often vent those things with our tongue, the very world of iniquity, fire. Paul says in 1 Timothy 5:13 how idleness can lead to gossip. He's talking about widows here, but we can see how this could be applied to anyone, where he says, at the same time, they also learn to be idle, as they go around from house to house, and not merely idle, but also gossips and busybodies, talking about things not proper to mention. People with too much time on their hands, when they're just sitting around, they're not doing anything. After a while, they just get bored, right? What am I going to do? I don't know. I'm going to do this, or I'm going to talk. I need to call somebody and talk about something. What do I have to talk about? Well, you know what? There is something. I saw so-so doing this, that, or the other. Gossip is always trouble. It obscures the truth, drives us away from God. It ruins reputations and destroys relationships. Gossip divides churches. And the trouble with it is that it is so incredibly destructive. I wonder if the people who were involved in that first video clip of those kids in Kentucky, if they realized just how destructive they were going to be with that. It's just a video. Let's just post that. Let's see how many clicks we get, right? Next thing they know it's all over the world on the internet. Every newspaper and news media outlets posting it. Twitter. Everyone's commenting on this one little snippet without all the facts. Destroying lives. They had to shut that school down, I think almost for a week, because of death threats. People wanting these kids, these kids, they wanted to kill them. They wanted them to die. Gossip. It is a wildfire gone out of control. We try to put it out. We might try to control it. But the gossiper keeps pouring gas on the fire like a forest fire that is just out of control. And the story grows and changes, and more gossip is spread. The story even grows within the mind of the gossiper at times. And not only that, it is full of deadly poison. Have you ever had food poisoning? It's not comfortable, is it? Romans chapter 1 verses 29 and 30 describes the lives of unbelievers who have shunned God, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips and slanderers. Same thing. Gossip and slander belong to unbelievers who have rejected God. When we gossip, we put ourselves in line with them. Paul tells us that therefore, laying aside falsehood, Ephesians 4:25, speak truth, each one of you, with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. We're part of the same family. When we gossip, the facts are distorted. Lies are spoken as truth. Half-truths are heralded as gospel. Gossip may have an ounce of truth, but it's full of lies. Proverbs 16:28, a perverse man spreads strife, and a slanderer separates intimate friends. In a few moments, gossip can ruin a friendship that took years to build. I remember in high school that was like the thing. Let's see if we can destroy these best friends, and they'll spread gossips or lies or half-truths, and a best friend will hear it and be like in a moment gone. Boy, that friendship ended. And even if they come out with the truth and find out that wasn't true, it's tarnished. It's tarnished. And that friendship is not as strong as it had once been. That's why Satan loves gossip. It can destroy lives. But there is an antidote for gossip. We know it originates with sin. The gossip does. We know that gossip is a product of our sinful nature. We know how incredibly destructive it is, and now we need to consider God's antidote. Proverbs 17:9 says, he who conceals a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates intimate friends. Overlooking an offense is an act of love and friendship. It is also a sign of Christian maturity. Christians can be too thin-skinned. We take things and we get hurt too easy. We don't think things through sometimes. Sometimes you just got to take the hits or consider it. If I retaliate, what does this mean? Where are we going if I keep going after this guy? He keeps going after me. It's just going to build up till it blows up. So we need to have thicker skins. We need to not listen to gossipers. Proverbs 20:19, he who goes about as a slanderer reveals secrets. Therefore, do not associate with a gossip, the New American Standard Bible says. Don't listen to them. God's word says to avoid the gossiper. When someone begins to gossip to you, stop them. Tell them plainly, I don't want to hear about that. You'll be stopping the gossip and perhaps even helping that brother to recognize what it is they are actually doing. Confront them, as Matthew 18 tells us. Jesus says about speak to that person one-on-one. If that doesn't work, bring a couple of spiritual mature Christian friends with you, confront them, and we need to confront the gossiper. But remember, always do it in love. Don't try to destroy them. The goal is to bring them back in line with the Word of God. Watch what your tongue says. Be careful. Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, Ephesians 4:29 tells us. Watch your tongue. If your words tear people down rather than build them up, keep quiet. You know the old saying. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Lock it up. I read a story, and I don't know if this is gossip or not. It's not gossip. I don't know if the story is true. I was never able to verify this, but it was a story about a man and a woman. They were on a vacation for their honeymoon, and they went to New York City. And for fun, they purchased a lottery ticket, but they ended up winning like $25,000 or $50,000 from the lottery ticket. And they were excited. They hadn't turned it in, but they started spending more than they probably should have. They weren't planning on, because they thought they got all this money. But they got into an argument about something. Got to so bad, so heated, the man stormed off, went up the Empire State Building. The woman, fearing that she might do something rash or drastic, ran after him. He got up to the top, tore up that lottery ticket, and threw it over the edge. She got there and said, "No, honey, whatever you're going to do, don't do it. I'm so sorry. We can make this work out." and they began to reconcile, and realizing what he had done in that fit of anger, he rushed back downstairs to see if he can recoup the lottery ticket. If you've ever been to New York, if you've ever been on top of a skyscraper, what do you think happened when he threw those pieces of paper over the ledge? The wind caught it. There's no way he's ever going to get that back. And that's what gossip does. Once you put it out there and that wind catches it, it's probably too late for you to recoup it, to bring those words back. Be careful what you say. Make the most of your time. I'm talking to you Christians. Make the most of your time, for the days are evil. Redeem the time, right? May the Lord bless you in that. Think on these things. Consider what I'm saying before you send that next email, text, upload a video, share a video or something else. As a kind of an excursus here, since I'm here at the end, I want to mention this. In the past, I've always told folks that I want to let my kids get on social media while they're in my house so I can help guide and direct them on how to use that. I am moving away from that idea because social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all the other things that are out there are so, they got their pitfalls, but it's getting to a point where it's full of so much gossip. Fake news is what people are calling it. That's gossip. It's filled with so much gossip and garbage and lies. Eventually, you get caught up in it. Eventually, you share something that's just not true. Be careful, folks. Don't share the gossip. Maybe it's time to get off social media and talk to folks face to face. Thank you.